This podcast is called Born of Blood, how the term serial killer was coined. We are true crime enthusiasts. We are both deeply interested in how these stories unfold, why justice sometimes fails, and what we can learn from it. From the ones that raise our eyebrows, make headlines, and sometimes have us shouting at our screens. They can be unfolding right now in packed courtrooms or maybe even in dusty files from decades ago, buried. Some might be familiar, but others may not be. But if a case is baffling, heartbreaking, or suspicious, it belongs here. Make no mistake, victims and survivors will always come first. No sensationalism, just respectful, thoughtful storytelling with critical eyes and curious hearts. We will not glorify the criminals or dramatize tragedy. We will focus on the facts, the fallout, and the questions that still need answers. Welcome to Moment in Crime.
And marked for evidence.
I'm Luna.
And I'm Zuska.
And tonight, we both combine our podcasts for this episode for a more comprehensive view. We're going to peel back layers of a word that's soaked in blood, a word that chills, captivates, and confounds. Serial killer. We hear it in headlines. We whisper it when a case gets too strange, makes us uncomfortable. It's part of our language now. In fact, it's part of our fear. But where did it come from? Who created this term? Who gave a name to the monsters hiding behind ordinary faces? This is not just a story of words. It's a story of obsession, psychology, and the slow, desperate attempt to understand the evil that repeats itself. So let's begin. Before the term serial killer existed, we still had them. They walked among us. They killed again and again, sometimes years apart, sometimes in a frenzy. And yet, without a name, there was no true profile, no classification. We simply kept calling them villains or maniacs, monsters, and sometimes mass murderers. Each case stood alone. So let's go back to the early 20th century in the case of the Vampire of Düsseldorf. In the 1930s in Germany, there was a man named Peter Kürten. He committed at least 9 murders and a dozen of attempted attacks, often with vampiric rituals like drinking blood and returning to crime scenes to relish in the terror that he caused. When he was finally caught, criminal psychologist Dr. Karl Berg studied him, but it was in fact Ernest Gnat, a Berlin police inspector and criminologist, who first described Kürten as a serial murderer. He kills again and again, and in fact in a similar way. He repeats the action, but it's not for gain. It was for gratification, he said. Gnat was decades ahead of his time, but the term he coined in German, Serial Mörder, never made it into the English-speaking world. Not yet. So enter the birth of profiling, what I would give to have been a part of that. Fast forward, early 1970s in Quantico, Virginia, the FBI is beginning to face a terrifying truth. There are murderers who don't just kill once. They don't kill for revenge. They honestly kill because they feel like they need to. Men like Ted Bundy, David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, or Herbert Mullen, the public is in panic. The media sensationalizes it. And inside the FBI's behavioral science unit, a quiet revolution is forming. Robert Ressler, a former Army officer and FBI agent, was among one of the pioneers. He worked closely with John Douglas, and together they interviewed incarcerated killers like Ed Kemper and Charles Manson. There's, in fact, a show about this on a popular streaming one that you might actually check out, because I will tell you, if you kind of side by side do the interview between Ed Kemper's actor and the
Mhm.
real one, it's chilling the
Huh.
way that he actually picked up the way he moved, the language, like the way that he spoke. He got it down pat.
I'll have to definitely check that out.
Oh yeah, it's so good. And they also, in fact, interviewed Charles Manson. Now, they were trying to build like a psychological map, a profile of what makes these men, and now we know women, tick. Ressler noticed something. These killers didn't act in like a sudden, unpredictable burst. They actually had cycles, rituals, and even cooling off periods. And above all, they returned to the kill. So Ressler used a new phrase in his lectures, serial killer. And that was inspired, he said, by like an old movie serials,
Hmm.
the kind that actually ended each episode with a cliffhanger, always promising to be continued. Each murder, Ressler argued, was like an episode in a twisted series. And just like that, like a serial story, the killer always came back for more. So, into the
Hmm.
spotlight in the 1980s, the term started to begin appearing in FBI files, and the public started hearing it in news reports, especially after cases like Wayne Williams, who was suspected in the Atlanta child murders,
Hmm.
or Jeffrey Dahmer, whose horrors became national nightmares. And I would venture to say, still to this day, cause national nightmares.
Yeah.
Then we have John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown, who actually hid bodies under his home.
They say they still actually don't know how many people he's actually killed for real and how many he buried.
The media adopted the term so quickly. It was very chilling, it was precise, but it also sold papers. And as true crime exploded, so did the media frenzy. Now, shows like America's Most Wanted and Unsolved Mysteries aired weekly. Pulp magazines and nightly news began using serial killer as a headline magnet. So by the time Thomas Harris released Red Dragon in 1981, introducing us to Dr. Hannibal Lecter, the term was fully cemented into pop culture. Hollywood
Yes.
followed, it really did. And then something really strange happened. We didn't just fear the serial killers, we actually began to obsess over them, kind of
Mhm.
like we're doing now.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about the psychology of it for a little bit?
Okay.
The term serial killer gave law enforcement a tool, a pattern to follow. It allowed them to build profiles, link cases, and even prevent future murders through behavioral science.
Mm. Okay. So it was kind of like a way for them to categorize it and maybe
Mhm.
contain that chaos. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But it also created something darker, a mythology. So, with each high profile case, the serial killer became less human and more legend.
Mhm, mhm.
Letters from prison, fan mail, art shows, trading cards, documentaries, podcasts.
So it was actually very poignant when I heard this. The actor that played Jeffrey Dahmer had to go back and actually issue a statement like, how much he appreciated, people talking about his looks. But the purpose of the show was to talk about how demented, how cruel, how disgusting it was. It was not to, it served in the opposite way of what they actually intended.
Mm-hmm. It became part of our collective psyche.
Mm,
And the thing is, they became icons, not warnings anymore.
yeah, you're right.
And that continues to have consequences. I
Mm,
know just recently there was a court case it was a very well known court case who people thought it was a very good looking young man, several tattoos everywhere.
mm,
And people were rooting for this horrible murderer to get off just because
mm.
how good looking he was.
Are you
There-
talking about Wade Wilson?
I may have been.
Yes,
Yes.
and I'm not gonna act like I did not listen to his calls from prison. There's
Ah.
actually a fantastic podcast called Phone Calls from Prison. You can hear almost anybody's phone
Mm-hmm.
calls because nothing's private there, to include their emails. And you can actually see how sick some of the people in their fan clubs are who don't care why they are in there. I'm sorry, I don't care how cute you are.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did Hollywood follow that, but so did we as a society.
Yeah.
Mm,
All right. We gave them a name. We called them serial killers. We know that now. But in
mm,
doing so, we tried to reclaim power. And what we named, we also elevated.
mhm,
So today, the FBI defines a serial killer as someone who kills two or more victims in separate events with
mm,
a psychological cooling off period between each murder. And while the term is still used, some criminologists reject it, arguing that it oversimplifies complex motivations or glamorizes the wrong things. Names matter, and because of everything we just stated before, the name
mhm,
serial killer stuck. Because there is something terrifying about the ritual, the
mm.
planning, and the quiet in between.
Oh, that's so eerie.
hmm It is not just the death, it's knowing that they'll do it again.
Mm, that's so crazy and scary. Ugh.
Luna and I think it's essential to understand the difference between murder, mass murder, and serial murder. It is key to good, true crime storytelling and
Mm,
busting myths to understand and properly describe the crime. So these terms get thrown around a lot, especially in media, but they have distinct legal and behavioral definitions. The general term for murder is the unlawful killing of another human being without intent or malice. This is an umbrella term and it can describe any single homicide, whether it's a crime of passion, a planned act, or a part of a larger pattern. Think a one time act, domestic dispute that escalates to violence, a robbery gone wrong, or a calculated revenge killing. Next, we have mass murder, and that is a killing of four or more people in a single event or short time span, typically in one location. And the key traits of a mass murder are no cooling off period, often ends with the killer's suicide or capture, Usually it's committed in public places like schools, offices, malls. Some examples are the 2012 Sandy Hook shooting or the 2017 Las Vegas shooting.
Mm.
Or if you remember the mass shooting at a movie theater in Aurora,
Oh, that was so
the
scary.
Colorado. It was in 2012, and then Chris Watts, do you remember he
Yeah.
annihilated his family in
Uh,
2018. His wife and children. He totally did a mass murder on them. Mass murders tend to draw immediate media attention,
hmm
usually due to the high body count in public settings.
And that's their intention.
Yep.
They want that attention. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. We need to focus our attention on the
The
survivors,
yeah, the victims and
on
the
the
survivor.
victims, on
Mhm.
yes, 100%. 100%.
So next we have serial murders, also called serial killings.
hmm
And the FBI defines them as the killing of two or more victims in separate events with a cooling off period between each murder. So that would be repeated compulsive behavior,
hmm
psychological gratification, often ritualistic. The killers may stalk, select, and manipulate victims over time. The cooling off period can last days, weeks, or years.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's our Ted Bundy's, John Wayne Gacy, Eileen
Wuornos.
Wuornos. Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm. These are calculated killings that follow a personal signature, fantasy, or a need for control.
Mm.
Then we have the spree killer. That is a person who kills two or more victims in multiple locations, but without a significant break. No cooling off period between the murders. And
Hmm.
the key difference is continuous activity over hours or days. Ugh.
You know what? I wonder if Elliot Rogers would be more of that because
Hmm.
he actually went to a college, went to a sorority house, and then some people on a drive there. So that actually kind
That
of
could he it kind of
sounds more
defines
like
him better.
that.
The DC Beltway snipers, you remember that? 2002?
Yes, everybody being terrified to go into any type of, weren't they like targeting like Home Depots and
Mm-hmm.
gas stations and stuff like that? Mm.
Andrew
Uh,
Cunanan
oh
and
yeah, Andrew
uh,
Cunanan, yes.
G- Gianni Versace.
hmm
Oof.
Yeah.
Here's some facts that we want to share. In the United States, a relatively small percentage of homicides are committed by strangers. Data from the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program in 2019 indicates that 9.9% of homicide victims were killed by strangers. So in
Mm.
contrast, 28.3 were killed by someone they knew, not by a family member, and 13% were slain by family members. The relationship was unknown in 48.9 of cases.
So, like in the 28.3, those could be like maybe a boyfriend. So, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily family, but boyfriend, or maybe somebody that was like I don't know, a stalker, somebody that liked someone, but maybe you turned them down,
Yep.
coworker, something like that. Ooh, that is creepy.
It's
Ooh,
yeah, it's a lot to think about, a lot to
it
take
really
in.
is.
So let's
Yeah.
do a quick recap.
Okay.
So murder has one or more victims,
hmm
and the time frame is one, and there's no cooling off period, and the location can be anywhere.
Okay.
Okay. A mass murder is four plus victims. The time frame is a single event. There's no cooling off period at all, and it takes place in one location.
Mm.
A serial murder is two, often three plus, and the
Okay.
time frame is separate events. And
Mm.
yes, there is a cooling off period, and the locations can vary. A killing spree is 2 or more, and the time frame is a short time span. No cooling off period, and the locations are multiple locations. So when people use serial killer to describe every mass shooter or spree killer out there,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's not quite it. A
Right.
serial killer isn't just about the body count. It's about pattern, obsession, and the space between killings that lets the urge build up again. It's creepy, right?
It is.
Serial killer wasn't born in blood, but in the desperate search to understand it. It was coined not to glorify the killer, but to catch him. And though it may now echo in true crime shows, books, and films, it began as a tool, a
Mhm.
warning, a pattern named so it could be broken. But tonight, it is just the beginning.
Mhm.
Because next time, on Moment in Crime and Marked for Evidence, we take the term off the paper and we give it a face.
Mhm.
And I'm Zuska,
And I'm Luna.
and you've been listening to A Moment in Crime and Marked for Evidence. Stay awake, stay alert, and remember, truth doesn't hide forever. Sometimes it awaits in plain sight.
Yes. So, as a bonus, here are practical evidence based tips for reducing your risk of kidnapping while still living your life without constant fear. These strategies come from law enforcement, self defense experts, and safety organizations. So, it's a lot of situational awareness. And we're going to actually include them in the description listed below. Because it is very important for you to have, and we're going to put it in a way that you can print these out for your information. It goes anywhere from situational awareness to daily habits, changing your daily habits. That is so important. Taking different routes, transportation safety, social media, and privacy. So important. And interpersonal safety, looking up who you are dating, learning to say no firmly and walking away. And listen, if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, invade your space, take a picture and send it to all your friends and along with where you are currently at. I actually had my daughter with one of her friends in New Orleans, and a gentleman was following her and would not stop crossing the street when she did. He came and invaded her space. She called me. I told her, "You start screaming loudly, get away from me, take his picture." And the moment she took his picture and was telling him to get away and making a scene, he walked away. But how scary. But also some physical and defensive measures. Guys, please take some self-defense classes. And no, seriously, if you were ever grabbed, yell fire, okay? Sometimes when we're yelling help, sometimes people do not want to get involved in, say, domestic dispute. Yell fire to attract attention. Also know if you're being followed, what to do. And, I just really think that you should put this in your phone as a prevention checklist. Print it, give it to the people you care about, set up your emergency phone numbers and response actions in every situation that you can, and give them to all of your loved ones, from young people to older people, because it can happen to anybody.
Yep. And as we learned with statistics, it's most likely someone you know.
It really is. And that's so incredibly scary.
Yeah.
We want to thank you for joining us. And, next week's is going to be extremely important. Thank you for following us. Please send this out to everybody that you can think of, because this is something we all need to know. But share it, subscribe, put your notification bells on, follow us on all of our platforms, follow all of our different podcasts that we have available. Remember, we're on 2 different ones, Moment in Crime and Marked for Evidence. And follow our social medias. We also have Peek into the Dark, Beyond the Veil. Thank you,
Absolutely.
and
Thank you so
have a
much.
good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.